So I was thinking we're going to have to probably go back and dissect each one of these conversations because I think it's for purposes of a podcast. We're speeding things along, right? I have so many more questions and everything you've been bringing up. I'm like, I want to jump on. So I'm going to keep some mental notes, but I want to get into narcissism and men that you know that have been able to identify their narcissism. Have you dealt with many of those people? Because I think one of the things I've really challenged with is I didn't understand what narcissism was. I didn't understand why my behaviors were bad because they were satisfying me. And then once I had that realization, I started to go, wow. And I wanted to help. Do you know many men that have been able to go from that to good quality people?
No. You might be the first, Kevin.
I don't know. Wow. So there's a challenge here, right? There's a I don't know if I have anything to talk about now. I maybe should have waited. I should have waited till later to ask that question. So in your experience, it's difficult to see men come out of that behavior and then find a successful transition into life is what you're saying.
Right. Yes. I think it's very difficult. I mean, specifically with the male narcissists that I've dealt with. And narcissists are attracted to certain type of people. It's not just anybody, right?
I know.
So it's like I feel like I attract narcissists, but that's also because of my weaknesses, things that I need to deal with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So should we find out if you're a narcissist?
Yeah, let's you know what, instead of pretend, let's I'm gonna surrender. The rest of this is to you. Go ahead and ask the questions that you want to ask.
Okay, so I would say the top traits of a narcissist are, number one, they lack empathy. It's hard for them to sit and listen to other people and to be really present in conversations without being bored and talking over people and wanting to commandeer the conversation. Does that describe you?
So and so maybe the question, yes, but I'm compassionate. Does that make sense? Like I would never walk by someone that was hurting. I would never walk by, and even like I could tell you a story about, I just drove by a goose that got killed. Two geese were walking, and this is not a weird make story. And I was watching them and I was smiling because, geese are those flock animals that like, they stay together for life. And this car out of nowhere comes and smokes one of the geese in front of me. Just happened 3 days ago. And I was thinking, like, I started crying. Like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have cried.
Right. Well, narcissists are also very generous. They're very they can be compassionate and charming, and they'll do anything for anybody, but it's always with strings attached. They want,
so they can get noticed, right? So you could be.
Yeah. Yep. And they're adding up points for themselves. Okay, if I do this for this person, they're going to like me more, or maybe they'll do this for me.
Wow.
So narcissists also, they have a really hard time apologizing. If they do apologize ever, it's rare, and it's again because of selfish motives. They tend to lie.
Do narcissists I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to do this, but do narcissists sometimes say, I'm sorry more than just like, because I would have a habit to say, I'm sorry. No. It wasn't even like I knew what I was saying I was sorry for. I was just saying I was sorry to try to stop that whatever was going on.
No, that's not more of a narcissist. That's more of like a people pleaser type of person who, and that gets under my skin. When people are saying sorry and they don't know why they're saying sorry, that's something I teach my kids. It's not just about saying sorry. It's about taking responsibility. Like, tell me why you're sorry. Tell me how you're going to.
I taught my kids the same thing, but then I had the same behavior. I had that opposite behavior because I was trying to people please to get what I wanted, and I was using that as a tactic to people please, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it's annoying.
Sorry. I know.
Sorry. I
know. Don't worry. You're never going to see me at the grocery store. We're too far away from each other. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. I was worried. So narcissists tend to lie about the dumbest stuff. I mean, who lies about really good stuff? But they lie, right? And
yes.
They will. Okay, so you lie.
I lied.
Okay.
I lied.
You lied.
I have not told a lie since December 17th of 2022.
Amazing. Okay, cool. They will also they gaslight people. That's a huge sign. It's a big sign. They gaslight people.
Cheers.
Should we talk about gaslighting, or we good with that? We just
Oh, I loved to gaslight people in the past. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
So,
recreation for me.
right. For those of you who don't know what gaslighting is, it's when somebody denies something they did or said and they make you feel like you're crazy.
Hmm.
So they don't take responsibility.
Hmm.
They will also, they're very
Can, can,
controlling.
I,
And
can I
it's,
ask a
yes,
question?
Kevin, you have the floor.
It's like
What?
school. Thank you. Because I feel like when I would do that. I
Hmm.
know now looking back,
Hmm.
I don't think I was aware of that kind of tactic being used that way, but I got so good at it that it was
Hmm.
natural. Yeah, I don't know if this makes
Right.
sense. Like
No, it makes perfect sense.
I wasn't looking for a reaction. I already
Right.
had a natural, and I will talk about that later on because something with me I think makes me uniquely qualified to be
Yeah.
that person that can find out whether or not I'm a narcissist is because I do have dyslexia. I have the third eye dyslexia. I have this whole deeper inner, like I have a photographic memory. I know things in a different way. But the problem that I have always had is I never lived in the moment. I lived in moments and I just reproduced them.
Hmm.
I don't know if this makes sense to you
Wow.
because the reaction was always built into it was automatic. It was already queued up and
Right.
ready. So when I had it, bang, gaslighting. I know how to gaslight you. I can hit
Right.
you with 10 different ways, control you, and I can walk on and smile out of here. That's how I
But
did
that's
it.
because you were so narcissism starts from your childhood. You're not born with it, but it comes from how you were raised. And so those have
Mm-hmm.
been your defense mechanisms your entire life, most likely,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Surviving. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, survival
100%.
mode.
Yeah.
So also, okay, there's two types of narcissists though, like overt and covert, right? The overt one's like obvious what it sounds like. They
Are
walk
we just
into a
going to stop the
room.
test because I already ruined it? I'm already a narcissist. We can just determine that.
Yeah, I would say you're a recovering narcissist.
Thank you for being so nice to me
Congratulations.
today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, oh
Well, you said there's not many that are out there noted, and I'd be willing to go to
no.
science to prove this test here because I truly am grossed out and disgusted by the person that I was. Um,
I am absolutely amazed with you right now. Like I have never met anybody. And of course, I've been doing this for 5 years, which is not it's not like decades, but
mhm.
5 years of coaching people and educating myself really on a deeper level. I've never met anybody who's asked me to take them through like the trait test and confessed, yeah, I do this, I do this, I do this.
Mm.
So good
How
work.
do you
I know it's humbling.
how do you fix it? You know, I mean, like
Yeah.
how do you get that like I never like I guess maybe another question to narcissists like is it possible that I had good sides to me as well as the bad like in the narcissist world is it all just bad or was I because I feel like I had some good in me like I know I look back and I had good moments.
Mhm.
I didn't enjoy those moments like I could today because of my openness and my love that I
Right.
truly have. You know, I
Yeah.
wonder, can I be both? Is it Jekyll and Hyde? Can you be both?
So I think that's a great question. I think because of how you were raised, right? Like everybody God has blessed us all with talents, right? And gifts. Like we have something to offer to this world, but the narcissist, it's like it just gets smothered with their insecurity and their pain, right?
Mhm.
So, sure, you had good sides, but most of the time, maybe those good sides were only like if you helped somebody, it was because you wanted something in return, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's basically like God had to come and take off all that filth. It's like, when the gross stuff rises to the top, the what do you call that stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, the gross stuff.
It's like I do a lot of juicing, and when you let it sit for a minute, all like
Mhm.
the juice particles float to the top, and I like to scoop them off and then just
Okay.
drink the juice.
Okay.
That's like you. It's like your life was covered with all this narcissistic stuff, but underneath there was like good roots in a sense, right?
Mhm.
But that's because of how you were raised. Like you even shared in the last episode, like the experiences you had, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
These
Yeah.
very horrible experiences,
I
and
had a brother that beat me from the
yeah,
day I was born. I mean, beat me like,
right.
you know, beat every day I was beaten up. I mean, here's an interesting one. I used
Hmm.
to eat glass as a kid.
Why?
I don't know. I'm 54 years old. How would I know now? And I asked my parents that, like, where'd you bring me? Well, we brought you in the emergency room. Did we get any help to find out why, what was I biting glass for?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awful. Yeah, so you've had a really traumatic childhood. It's
Well,
only
something
natural
happened to
for
me,
you.
like I said, with the photographic stuff. Something
Yeah,
happened between my 0 to, I say, 4 years old
yeah,
that I cannot get a visual in my head.
yeah.
Something happened. And I have a feeling after my training that putting something in my mouth prevented other things going in my mouth.
Right. That probably, I mean, it's like it's an addiction, right? Why do we have an addiction? Because we want to cover up the pain. We want to feel different, right? We
Mm-hmm.
want to submerge that pain. And if I'm being completely honest with you right now, like I do drink alcohol sometimes. And I had this moment with God the other day, and
But you're
I
not an
want to,
alcoholic. But you're not
I'm
an
not,
alcoholic.
no, I can stop drinking. It's not a problem at
Right.
all. But
Right.
I have realized this, and I had this moment with God recently because we
Mm-hmm.
all have stuff we have to work on, right? None of us are going to arrive this side of heaven, right? We're always
Mm-hmm.
going to be working on stuff. And that's why I feel so comfortable sharing these vulnerable parts with myself because I hate it. My pet peeve is when people say I'm not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, nobody's perfect, but
Right.
I'm not even halfway to perfect.
No.
You know, people look at me, they're like,
You're
you have a
perfect
great
compared to
attitude.
me, though. I will say you're much more
Yeah,
perfect than I
yeah,
am. I am really
yeah,
broken, not perfect.
right.
But I
So
get what you're saying.
I'm going through some interesting stuff. I'm like getting ready to launch my podcast, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I mentioned that.
Make sure you
I'm
do.
building my business. I'm kind of moving to San Diego and I'm homeschooling my kids. My older son just moved back in with his girlfriend. There's a lot of stuff going on under the surfaces that's causing a lot more stress in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I'm like leaning into Christ, but there's a lot of stress. And I've realized the other day, like a few nights in a row, I wanted to go get a bottle of wine, right? Not drink the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I stopped myself because I have the tools of personal growth, right? I was like, okay, Lord, why do I want to have this wine?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt him say to me, you're trying to cover up the pain of feeling incapable. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
driving down the road and I just have these conversations with God. And he's like, you feel like you're incapable. And I just hit me. And I was like,
Does he
you're
speak with
right.
that voice to you when the God's voice is very deep to you?
Yeah.
Deep voice.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I've never heard it audibly, but he
Yeah.
speaks to my heart. And I know he says things to me that I wouldn't say to myself. But when I'm
Right.
open, like I always tell people, he's going to work with you. He'll meet you where you at. You don't have to get everything together and check off all the boxes and then go to God and be like, okay, Lord, speak to
Mm-hmm.
me. He'll speak to you right where you're at. And so I'm driving down the road, like fully just having a hard time. This was recent too. This was last week. And he's like, you feel like you're incapable, Anna. Like you're trying to cover up that pain of all these things that are happening and feeling like you're not enough, you're not going to make this thing happen, you don't have what it takes. And I know that's the enemy trying to tell me those lies. And so I was just like, okay, God, I take away my desire to even have wine. I don't want to fill that void with drinking wine because I know I'm doing it to feel different, and that's not okay for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, the
Mm-hmm.
last few days, I haven't had any wine at all. But that was like a little glimpse into my life. Like, I've never craved alcohol before, but
Mm-hmm.
I see the enemy. I'm about to do something great, like the greatest thing I've ever done. You
Right.
know,
Right.
starting this podcast, building my business.
Right.
I'm doing all these things, and the enemy is just like, nope, I'm going to pull the rug out from underneath her.
Right.
I'm going to get
Right.
her to hate herself and to pick up an addiction,
Mm-hmm. And so
which I've never had an
you're
addiction.
not only through your experience of being victim,
Yeah,
right? The victimized,
right,
you actually are identifying that you almost are going to victimize yourself by some of these things
right.
seeping into yourself. So that's kind of like that with self-awareness and growth. And so
Mhm.
if you can have that happen to you while you're battling against the evil forces and they can still attack you,
Right.
isn't it possible that people like me could have good influences come in to my life
Yeah.
and they could definitely help me?
Good
Maybe.
influences of you. I mean,
Yeah.
like you already had that good influence of God intervening. I'm sure it just
Mm.
wasn't just God. I'm sure there were other people and
Mm.
situations and things that he used to get
My,
your
my, my,
attention.
my ex-wife was a huge part of my life.
Yeah,
I give her all glory, and Melissa was amazing. She's a beautiful person. I owe her so much in my life. Paula, my
right.
ex-girl, I've only had two relationships in my life.
Hmm.
Two relationships. I mean, all the other things were things of moments, right? Two
Right.
relationships in my whole life that I've ever had, and those two relationships were my entire adult life.
Right.
I just told you, I never slept in a bed, but my own
Right.
bed for 54 years until 2 nights ago.
Quick question. So, do you know what you are in the attachment styles? Do you know what your relationship style is? No?
Probably needy. I
Okay.
don't know.
Oh, so would you say you're more avoidant or more clingy and needy?
Once I have a connection, I want 24/7 your attention.
Okay.
Wait,
Ooh,
wait.
you know,
I just rhymed that. That's a good. And once I get,
yeah, that's
yeah, I
exciting.
think I just,
So for
yeah.
anybody who doesn't, this is just like a quick plug to take the test. It's a free test, but it's in the link in my bio. It's like a 10 minutes, 8-minute relationship quiz, and it will show you
Oh,
how you show up in relationships. And it is a game changer. If you're in a relationship with somebody who's emotionally unavailable, that means they're dismissive avoidant. They're the most difficult ones to date. Or like for your example, you're probably
Mm-hmm.
anxious, preoccupied, the needy, clingy ones who doesn't know how to have a life outside of that other person.
Mm-hmm.
You just like make your entire world about them and it
Mm-hmm.
revolves around them.
Right.
That's not
Well,
healthy either.
wait. What I did, let me. So
Yeah.
I wanted them as my partner, but I wanted
Right.
me as the celebrity, the person
Right.
getting all the attention. But I wanted that person behind me always there, and that goes even back to my
Right.
ex-wife. That's when me and my ex-wife we were going to political things, and I would look back. I remember telling her, and we just talked about it. I would look back to hold her hand, and she wasn't there to hold my hand walking into a room when the honorable whatever they announce you as in politics. And I'm so far from those days, that I started to realize I was lost and I needed that person. And so then I
Right.
started to really weaken my beliefs in my relationships and all these other things. And I think that happened in my past relationship too, where I would look for that person. Well,
Mm-hmm.
here I am on a podcast. Where are you? You're supposed to be helping me, and you're out
Yeah.
working to feed your family. How dare you? You know what I mean? Like I was
Yeah.
that guy. So
Okay, I wrote down one of your other questions, like you asked a long time ago. When
yeah.
you're in a dark place, how do you
Yep.
like start to heal yourself and heal
Mm-hmm.
that relationship to yourself and become a more healthier person, right? And what you said was like the first step is having self-awareness. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've already done the first step, which is you're
But
aware.
somebody did it.
Oh,
For, somebody brought me though, Anna. Somebody brought me there, right? I didn't.
right,
It took me having that brought. I had to see it in front of me and experience it to accept it. Does that make
right. Who
sense?
brought you there? Your ex-girlfriend?
Paula did, yeah,
She would call you a narcissist?
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And would you deny it? Would you be like, you're
No,
crazy?
no, no,
Yeah.
not at all. I wouldn't deny it at all. I mean, listen. um,
Yeah.
I think I have every attribute of someone that would figure out a way to take advantage of you if I wanted to.
Right. Okay, here's another trait
Sorry,
for true
so blunt,
empathy.
but that's just really
Right. No, I
that's the
love that.
personality. Yeah.
I love people who are straightforward and who don't beat around the bush. That's like
Mm-hmm.
my favorite thing being an 8.
Okay.
So they also narcissists will isolate people. So they will try and isolate the person away from people who will support them and champion them and who
Mm.
like build them up. And that's what my ex did to me. Like 5, 6 years into my marriage, I looked around and I was like, where is everyone? Where are my friends? My best friends wouldn't come over to my house anymore because of him. If he was home, they wouldn't come over. We stopped entertaining people, having guests over for dinner because he wanted to be the center of attention. He wanted to just take over the whole conversation, talk about himself, was not interested in other people or asking good questions like, so
Mm.
what's your story? What are you about?
Mm.
Never.
So
So
this is the Q
would
and A
you do
time
that?
because well let me say this that I always am up for a party, like
Right.
no doubt. So I always want people around me all the time. It was more in that relationship that she didn't like crowds, she didn't like people. However, I guess more important to the question is that you're talking about her group that I took her from. Okay,
Hmm.
so I think to probably I don't know if there was a group to take her from. Her family is her only unit really that really she had
Hmm.
that connection to, and I don't necessarily know if she even had that connection as well to the degree that could. I don't think I took her from that. No, I would. I'll take claim for a lot, but no, not on
Right.
that one.
Right.
So
And were you controlling like with maybe money? You guys only dated though, right? You guys weren't
no,
married.
no,
So
she
with
carried
money
me.
or
She carried me on money for the longest time while we were building the business, and
okay.
she was a powerhouse
Right.
with it. And
Were you
go
yeah.
ahead.
Do you struggle with jealousy?
I had in my life, and then I
Mhm.
was like this cocky, cool dude, and like, whatever. I think that came with the age difference, and I perceived
Mhm.
myself as a successful person.
Mhm.
And then as time went on, actually, ironically, when she was in Hawaii and she took some beautiful pictures, I got so insecure that that's when my insecurities started to realize that our relationship was over.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to write that down because this is so important. So, insecurity, here's another question. It might be super hard. Would you honestly say that you are incredibly insecure? At least you were maybe a few years ago. So you would admit to that. Okay, that's
Yes,
very interesting. So
100%.
yeah, narcissists are
I'm insecure.
extremely insecure people, but they come across as very secure and confident, right?
Yeah, isn't it
I wish
crazy?
you would
Yeah, it's
take
crazy, right?
I wish you would take the attach the relationship quiz in my bio at some point and like screenshot the results to
I'm
me
gonna,
because it'll
I will.
explain to me a lot about you. So back to insecurity though. Um, quick story. The last guy I dated was a dismissive avoidant. So he was extremely insecure, but he was an pro lacrosse player, right? 6'5", like light eyed guy. And he was always used to getting the most attention in the room. But when I got more attention, what you just
Mm-hmm.
said, he did. He became
Mm-hmm.
so incredibly insecure. He flipped his lid. Later that night, he told me, he's like, Anna, I don't know what happened to me. He said, I realized for the first time in my life how incredibly insecure I was. He's like, I knew I was taking you, like you were mine. Like I knew you belonged to me, whatever. Like I was his date, right? He's like, I don't know why I had to be
Mm-hmm.
worried. It wasn't like you were going to go home with some guy or anything. So what you just said is like,
Right.
wow, like that's real.
Yeah. Yeah, it's real. It's real. And it's funny because it's interesting to see the insecurity in yourself and how you actually deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
because you have this preconceived notion that you're this guy or whatever, and then this beautiful thing that grows from a seed to this in front of you gets strength. And she was self-empowering an entire time of our relationship, and I wasn't paying attention. Like, if I would have paid attention, I wouldn't be on this call with you right now, to put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I would have woken up to what was happening. But God had a different plan, and I totally accept that now, and I'm very, very
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with it. But I think this admission that I give you is one that most men will fight
Mm-hmm.
admitting
Right.
yes to.
Yeah. It's really, really important. I would say, okay, the first step to healing is self-awareness. The second step is to staying single for a little while. Like that's so important. A lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're anxious, preoccupied, you're going to want to jump right back into a relationship. How long have you guys been broken up?
Well, we've been done probably for it was 9 months probably total, but what I lived with her for many of those months, even after what she laid it down to me. I just didn't want to accept it,
Right.
and she was very, very, very kind with me in the beginning until I ended up being forced out of the house and actually kicked out and went homeless. Right,
Right.
I was
So she
homeless.
broke up with you. You stayed in the
Yeah.
house until she kicked
Well,
you
she
out.
didn't officially. She's like, I need to find myself,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole thing was it was like going to be like, I'm searching for this. You need to fix your stuff, and really, it was about me just being a more productive in the relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't see it because I was still focused on my career, this
Mm-hmm.
career, like building this kind of thing. And I was like, I'm all in on this. I'm not turning my back. And I'm going to say truthfully, honestly, I don't regret what I've done. I'm glad I'm where I am. I know that God put me here for a reason. I feel lots of shame about how I treated her and many other people in my past. And that's why I reached out to you, because I want to make sure that I'm the best person for the rest of my life. If it's an hour after we get off the show, or if it's the next 30 years, I want to be the best me. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
like, that's just kind of coming clean with whatever it is that maybe I didn't know, or I did know, but I'm responsible of at the end of the day. I want to take ownership.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's hope for you, Kevin.
There's hope for human
Uh,
race. Yeah, the males,
yeah.
men of the world. There's hope. Yeah,
So I
yeah.
help a few of my clients now. They've been broken up and they're trying to heal from their relationships. And I tell them, like,
Mm-hmm,
embrace your singlehood right now, your singleness, embrace it, make the
mm-hmm,
most of it. Like, this is the time that God is giving you to heal yourself and to, like your ex said, to find yourself in
mm-hmm,
Christ, to attach yourself to something bigger and realize, okay, what are my gifts? What am I here for? What's my purpose? What's my passion? And really work on yourself daily. Like, don't spend
mm-hmm,
less than 10 minutes a day working on yourself. And when I tell people work on themselves, they're like, what does that mean? It means, like, first and foremost, do things like incorporate habits into your life that are going to make you a better person. Like read a motivational book, or the
mm-hmm,
Bible, if you read the Bible.
mm-hmm. I
Even
do
if you don't read the
every day.
Bible,
I have a daily read every day.
yeah,
I try to read it every day. I've
yeah.
been slacking, but definitely do that
Yeah,
every day.
and I don't read my Bible every day, but even if you don't read the Bible, like the book of Proverbs is so full of wisdom, like you can't not glean from it, even if you don't like are not a Christian or whatever it is, right? Meditate.
Mm-hmm,
I started meditating in the last year and I just do it for like 5 minutes. I set my
mm-hmm,
timer, I listen to some meditative music and I just sit there and I just try and discipline my mind.
mm-hmm,
And just also at the same time I'm just praying. So it's like a meditational prayer time for me, and that's really helpful. Journaling your thoughts, your feelings, your triggers, like things that happen during the day, maybe the things that you're going through and how you reacted to those situations, or how certain people or situations make you feel. That type of journaling, not like what you did today, not like
mm-hmm.
that type of thing.
No, I get
um
it. I get it.
yeah, listening to motivational podcasts and audiobooks, and then also physically, like start working out. Like, I'm not saying you personally, if I don't know if you work out or not,
Mm-hmm,
but physically being your best is a huge part of personal growth. It's not just
Gotcha.
mental and emotional and spiritual, but figure out a sustainable workout plan that
Hmm.
you could do like 3 to 5 days a week. Um, and another huge thing about healing, Kevin, is really being aware of your triggers. Like when you're triggered, and let me ask you this. So when you're triggered, anytime something just doesn't sit right with you, do you react in anger, shame or guilt, or
Hmm.
anxiety?
So
There are
up
the
to
three
well
ways.
up yep up to the point where I accepted Christ in my life, I would be angry at every moment.
Okay.
Everything would be anger.
Right.
Now it truly is acceptance and ownership. I don't think that
Mhm.
that's whatever the moment is. If it's
Right.
like I'm wrong, if you're wrong, or whatever, it's like, and it's love. It's like,
Right.
I've actually been able to say I love you to my parents, which I never was able to do in my life. I was able to say I love you to my brother, which I have a hard time, thinking that I can do that after some of the things. But so I took all that stuff off the like I have no
Right.
obstructions to love. Does that make sense? I don't know if that answers the
Yeah,
question,
no,
but
that makes perfect sense. And I'm just thinking right now, like what you are, you and I are the same. So you and I are probably the same on the Enneagram, which are eights, and we both are prone to anger. And we can learn to control it. We can learn to like deal with it so that we're
mm-hmm.
not angry. But that's part of what makes us the people that we are, which is we are
Right.
the type of people who stand up for the underdog and who pave the way for others, and we're natural leaders. So there could be a benefit to healthy anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just
It's
think that's
interesting you
really
say the
interesting.
underdog because when I was a kid, I had dyslexia, as I mentioned, and back then, I was born in 1969, so I'm older than you a lot.
Mhm.
But I was in special needs classes, and
Right.
then they didn't mainstream, so I was with children who were severely disabled, and I was the star pupil, right? So it gave
Mhm.
me this underdog version, like no one's picking on anybody around me, and that's kind of how I lived my life, always thinking that I was fighting for the underdog when I was actually trying to get noticed myself
Right.
because I didn't realize, no one was there to tell me then how to deal with stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's well, isn't it crazy that it really all stems from like the first? If we could just stop, like on your 21st birthday, you shouldn't go out drinking. You should go right to a psychologist and like sit down and figure out
Right.
what made you for the last 21 years. Like what made you into that person, and like before you step into 22, your 22nd year, you should be prepared. Because I wish I knew at 21 the things I know now. Man, would I just you can't go
Right.
backwards, but wow,
Yeah.
right?
No, I tell people that. I was like, if I could go back to my 21-year-old self or even 18 and hire
Yeah,
a life coach,
yeah.
because that was the main turning point in my life was I hired a life coach about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do that. I don't care how much it would cost. If you want to become the best version of yourself, you need somebody who's going to walk with you, who's a step ahead of you, a few seasons ahead of you, who's going to hold your hand and hold you accountable. Accountability is one of the most valuable things. And that's why I love coaching versus like therapy, because a coach is going to be forward movement and setting goals and keeping you accountable. Like I check in with my clients, like, are you doing the thing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that's only where the real change comes from is like you, Kevin, you want to work towards becoming less narcissistic and healthier, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
who's holding you accountable? I'm not saying I
Me.
have to be your
No, no,
coach.
no, no, no. It's a great question. It's really
Yeah.
it's me at the end of the day, which is
Right.
something that I was not allowing, and I wasn't taking
Right.
that responsibility on before. But let's. How many people are you coaching right now?
I'm coaching 4 right now.
So yeah, four. So it's interesting because
Right.
I've been a coach my entire life, like in every position, from coaching kids to right
Right.
at now. I have people right now that are going to
Yeah.
trial for court. They're calling me. They're quitting alcohol. They're
Yeah.
calling me. I'm just giving them my life lessons, which
Yeah.
I need people like you in my life that I can give professional sort of advice, their way. But I know that I have that natural sort of desire, right? Is that
Right.
something that you see in narcissists that they do have that, or is that something that maybe is unique?
I think it's unique. I don't think most narcissists even first of all, they don't see the need to change. They think it's everybody else,
Hmm.
you know? And like
Mm-hmm.
right before I got divorced, I didn't mention this, but I presented this idea to my ex-husband where I was like, "Okay, we've tried everything under the sun, nothing has worked." I said, "We need to do something different. We need to think outside the box." So I've been going to Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christ-centered recovery program for like a year, and it changed my life. So I was like, "I suggest that we both go to CR weekly together and we do a step study, which is this 9-month intensive deep work you do on yourself with a sponsor, and separate for like a year for the sake of restoration and then stop drinking. Like I no problem not drinking, but like we can stop drinking, right? He had disagreed with all those things. And so he did go to CR one time, and he came home and he looked at me, and I'll never forget this. He looked at me, he goes, Anna, that's for you. That's for people like you. I don't struggle with any of those things. And like everyone there either struggled with some sort of addiction or pornography or anger or control issues, right? Or jealousy, or they were sex addicts, all those things. And he said he didn't struggle with any of those things. So yeah, that's rare for somebody to say, hey, I know I need to work on myself. A narcissist to say, I know I need to work on myself.
Yeah. Well, I think personally is that I never was wanting to be that person. I just got so comfortable in it. I didn't have the tools because I didn't
Right.
seek them. I'm not blaming anyone else. To reach out and try to figure it out. And so I just went from one broken to the next broken. And if it wasn't for my last relationship, and I want to be very clear because this is going to be public and I don't want anyone to misunderstand. My ex-wife, Melissa, is the most important person that I've ever met in my life. She gave me the two most beautiful kids. I have beautiful children. They're 27 and 23, and they're just amazing kids. And their mom is an amazing person. And my ex-girlfriend, Paula, was she's an amazing person who I want nothing but true, honestly. And what I'm giving back to them because of the things I've done to them, and I'm not asking them to like pat me on the back, is I want to be honest. And I want to be like put it on the table and be like, you know what? Yeah, man, those things you were feeling, I'm responsible for those things, and I need to take that on.
Right.
And I hope I help somebody else by doing it.
Are they going to listen to this podcast, this episode?
You know what?
Do they listen?
I'm pretty darn sure they will, because sometimes I'll talk and I'll get a message and be like, either they listen to it or somebody else listens to it in their lives and they share it with them. And, it's been the, oh, you're crazy because you're all about God, and you're crazy because all you do is talk about, you're so honest. Stop being so honest. I mean, there's things that I don't want to talk about, but if I'm not honest on every level of everything, like there's people in my life now, you're talking about staying single. I'm talking to people in my life that I think are very special right now. And there could be a potential for relationships with certain people in my life. But you know what? I also know that I'm very much in control of me. Like I make it very clear. It's me first because I'm responsible of me. And then once I'm really good, then I can start to introduce those things into my life. So I'm taking a little bit of your advice. I just feel like, I don't know if you suffer from this, but I like to hold a hand. I like to feel attractive. I like to have someone, that has a relationship or talk to. So that's a tough thing for me to deal with on my end of
What
this
is staying
process.
single? Staying single for a season?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's tough. It's hard.
Well, I think
You throw it out there. Honestly, it's going to be hard for me.
Because it's so tough for you, it's going to be something that you're going to have to like surrender that and really trust Christ to like help you walk through that, because that is probably the best thing you can do right now is really work on yourself. And like I was going to say too earlier, is like one of the ways that people can heal is paying attention to your patterns, right? The thing, okay, why am I helping this person? I'm doing this over and over again. Why am I going here? Why am I doing this thing? Is it, what are the motivations? And if I love this question, it's like, if you could start or stop doing one thing right now that'll instantly make your life 50% better, what would it be? Maybe if you were to say, okay, one thing you're supposed to stop doing to make your life instantly 50% better.
I would say believing in people. And I think sometimes when I say that, don't get me wrong, I'm not a pushover, but I instantaneously want to think positive about everything. I see butterflies where I used to see, flies. I see happiness. Like I was telling you about the geese. I mean, I started crying on the side of the road. I was so upset. I reached out to everybody in my life. I mean, I was so upset by that moment that I know I have such love, but see, I never allowed it. So I say, maybe just not letting people take advantage of me. And a lot of this maybe is more in business than anything. I think that's affected my personal relationships. A lot of what happened is I had business deals in the past relationship that were life-changing, right? Like every one of the business deals that all entrepreneurs say, we're going to change our lives. We're going to hit it big. And everyone would fail. And I would have to now make up a new story why I'm going to be successful for the next project. And yeah, I don't know if I'm saying it the right way, but that's what I felt like saying.
So you would give up not being, not believing what everybody says. Like,
yeah. So can you repeat that question again? Can you say that again one more time?
Taking it with a grain of salt.
Get a bad signal here, so I'm just going to stop right here. If you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up. And very cool, because we had a bad signal. I just want to bring you back on. So right there, you were transitioning into a point. And can you make that point for me? Okay.
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
You said, if you were to give up one thing right now to make your life 50% better instantly, it would be to stop believing in people so much.
Stop
taking it with a grain of salt.
Stop trying to help people. I think I should say help people, maybe not believing. Like trying to always help somebody. Like always, I'm putting them before my own needs half the time, right? Like all the time, I'm like, what can I do to help that person?
Okay.
In hopes that they're going to but check it out, because I want them to like me. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm after.
Right. Would you say you're a people pleaser then, or would you say you're more of a perfectionist?
Wow. I say I'm not a perfectionist because I don't finish what I start. And I am a people pleaser until I'm satisfied. I think we're getting frozen up here. This is not good a time for this, because we're in a really good time. I'm going to back us out of the room. We're going to end this one, right, Mark? And we're going to come back on in a fresh lead. Okay, hold on one second.